I ran into my ex-wife at an upscale finance party where every glass of wine cost more than my old monthly salary. Vanessa looked around, saw I came alone, and smiled with that familiar pity I used to know too well. "No one loves you," she said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. I didn't argue back. I just stood there, silent, like her words were some kind of truth I had to accept. But right then, the double doors behind me opened, and a woman nobody expected walked straight in. I hadn't planned on coming to this party. When the invitation arrived 3 weeks ago, I almost threw it out. It was one of those heavy cardstock things with embossed gold lettering, the kind that made you feel like you didn't belong just by holding it. The event was hosted by some private equity firm I'd never heard of, and the venue was a penthouse overlooking the city. I knew what kind of people would be there, the ones who measured success in portfolio returns and square footage, the ones who never had to choose between fixing the car or paying for their kid's field trip. But my friend Jake worked for the host company, and he insisted I come. He said I needed to get out more, that hiding away wasn't doing me any favors. So I put on the one decent suit I still owned from my old life, the one that didn't quite fit the same way anymore, and I went. I told myself it was just one night. I could handle one night. The penthouse was exactly what I expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble everything. Waiters in white gloves carrying trays of champagne that probably cost more per bottle than I spent on groceries in a month. Everyone looked like they belonged in a magazine spread about wealth and success. The men wore suits that were tailored so perfectly, they might as well have been painted on. The women wore dresses that shimmered under the chandeliers and jewelry that caught the light with every movement. I felt out of place the second I walked in. I'd felt out of place in rooms like this before, back when I was married to Vanessa, and she dragged me to networking events and fundraisers. Back then, I at least had her beside me, even if she spent most of the night working the room while I stood in corners nursing the same drink. Now I didn't even have that. Jake found me near the bar about 20 minutes in. He clapped me on the shoulder and introduced me to a couple of his colleagues. Nice enough people who made polite conversation before drifting away to more important connections. After that, I was on my own. I thought about leaving early. I thought about it a lot, actually. But something kept me there. Maybe stubbornness, maybe the free food. I wasn't sure. That's when I saw her. Vanessa. She was across the room, laughing at something a man in a charcoal suit was saying. She looked good. She always looked good. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, cut into one of those sharp styles that screamed confidence and money. She wore a black dress that probably cost more than my rent, and she moved through the crowd like she owned the place. We'd been divorced for almost 4 years. The marriage lasted 6, but it felt like a lifetime ago. We got married young and dumb, back when we thought love and ambition could coexist without one suffocating the other. Vanessa wanted more. She always wanted more. More money, more status, more of everything. And I wanted a family. I wanted to come home to something that mattered more than a bank statement. When our daughter Emma was born, I thought things would change. I thought Vanessa would slow down, find some balance. But she didn't. She worked longer hours, traveled more, missed more bedtimes, and school events. I picked up the slack because someone had to. I became the parent who packed lunches and helped with homework and showed up to soccer games. Vanessa became the parent who sent checks and made excuses. The divorce was her idea, but I didn't fight it. By the end, we barely spoke to each other anyway. She said I was holding her back, that I didn't have the drive she needed in a partner. I said she forgot what mattered. We split everything down the middle, except Emma. Emma stayed with me. Vanessa didn't argue about that either. She said she'd visit, that she'd stay involved. She did for a while. Then the visits got shorter and further apart. Now she saw Emma maybe once a month, if that. I hadn't seen Vanessa in person for almost a year. We communicated through texts and emails about Emma's schedule, nothing more. So when she spotted me across the room and started walking over, I felt my stomach drop. I thought about turning around, pretending I didn't see her, but it was too late. She was already halfway across the floor, her heels clicking against the marble with that determined rhythm I used to know so well. She stopped in front of me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Michael," she said, like my name was a surprise she hadn't expected. "I didn't know you'd be here." I nodded, kept my voice even. "Jake invited me. He works for the host company." She glanced around, as if looking for proof. "That's nice. It's good to see you getting out." Her tone was light, almost cheerful, but there was something underneath it, something sharp. We made small talk for a minute. She asked about Emma, the usual surface-level questions that required surface-level answers. I kept it brief. She didn't really want to know how Emma was doing in school or what she was interested in lately. This wasn't about Emma. This was about something else, and I could feel it coming. Then her eyes swept over me, taking in my suit, my lack of a date, the way I stood slightly apart from everyone else. "You came alone?" she asked, and there it was, that edge I'd been waiting for. "I did," I said. She tilted her head, her smile growing wider. "That's too bad. I thought maybe you'd have moved on by now." She said it like she was concerned, like she genuinely cared. But I knew better. I didn't respond. I just looked at her, waiting for whatever was coming next. She glanced around again, making sure there were people nearby. A couple of men in expensive suits stood a few feet away, chatting about market trends. A woman in a red dress was laughing with a waiter. Everyone was close enough to hear if Vanessa wanted them to, and she did. "No one loves you," she said, loud enough that the words carried. The men nearby stopped talking. The woman in the red dress turned her head slightly, pretending not to listen, but absolutely listening. Vanessa's smile stayed fixed, like she'd just commented on the weather. I felt the weight of those words settle over me like a heavy coat. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell her she was wrong, that I had Emma, and that was more love than she'd ever understand. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave her standing there with her cruelty hanging in the air. But I didn't do either. I just stood there, silent, because responding would have turned this into a scene, and I wasn't going to give her that. I wasn't going to let her bait me into defending myself in front of strangers who didn't know me and didn't care. The silence stretched out. Vanessa's smile faltered just a little, like she'd expected me to say something. The people nearby shifted uncomfortably, unsure if they should intervene or pretend they hadn't heard anything. And then the double doors at the far end of the room opened. I didn't turn around at first. I was too focused on keeping my breathing steady, on not letting Vanessa see how much her words had landed. But I felt the shift in the room. The conversations around us dropped to murmurs. Someone gasped softly. I saw Vanessa's face change, her expression going from smug satisfaction to something else. Confusion, then recognition, then shock. I turned around. A woman stood in the doorway. Tall, composed, wearing a navy dress that was elegant without trying to be. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore almost no jewelry except for a watch that probably cost more than most people's cars. She didn't need anything else. She had the kind of presence that didn't require decoration. Eleanor Wright. I'd recognize her anywhere. She scanned the room with calm, measured eyes, like she was assessing every person and detail in a single glance. Then her gaze found mine, and she smiled. She walked toward me, not quickly, not slowly, just with the kind of certainty that made everyone else step aside without thinking. The crowd parted like water. I heard someone whisper her name. Someone else said something about investments. Another voice mentioned billions. Eleanor stopped right in front of me. She didn't acknowledge Vanessa. She didn't acknowledge anyone else. She just looked at me, her smile warm and genuine, and reached out to take my arm. "Honey," she said, her voice soft but clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Sorry I'm late." I felt the entire room go still. I'd met Eleanor 6 months ago at a coffee shop near Emma's school. It wasn't the kind of place you'd expect to run into a billionaire. It was small, cramped, with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu that hadn't been updated in weeks. I went there most mornings after dropping Emma off, just to sit for 20 minutes before heading to work. Eleanor came in one Tuesday, wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair in a ponytail, looking like anyone else. She ordered black coffee and sat at the table next to mine. We didn't talk at first, but the place was packed that morning, and when someone accidentally knocked over a tray of mugs near our tables, we both jumped up to help the barista clean up. She handed me a handful of napkins and smiled. That was it. Just a smile and some napkins. But something about it felt easy. We started seeing each other there after that. Same time, same corner of the shop. We'd nod hello, exchange a few words about the weather or the traffic. Small talk that didn't go anywhere but felt comfortable anyway. It took 3 weeks before I learned her last name. She mentioned it casually, like it didn't mean anything. Wright. Eleanor Wright. I'd heard the name before, seen it in business headlines I barely paid attention to, but I didn't connect the dots until later, until I looked her up out of curiosity and realized exactly who I'd been sharing coffee with. By then, it didn't matter. We'd already moved past coffee shop pleasantries. She knew I was a single dad. I knew she ran some kind of investment firm. We kept it simple. No pretense. No performance. Just two people who happened to like talking to each other before the day really started. The first time she asked me to dinner, I almost said no. Not because I didn't want to go, but because I couldn't imagine what someone like her would want with someone like me. But she made it sound casual, like it wasn't a big deal. So I said yes. We went to a quiet place outside the city, somewhere no one would recognize her, and we talked for hours, about everything, about nothing. She told me about growing up with parents who expected perfection and how she'd built her company from scratch to prove she didn't need their approval. I told her about Vanessa, about Emma, about trying to figure out how to be enough for a kid who deserved more than I could give. She didn't judge. She didn't offer advice I didn't ask for. She just listened. And when I finished talking, she told me I was doing better than I thought. That most people didn't even try as hard as I did. It was the first time in years someone had said something like that to me. And I actually believed them. We'd been together for 5 months now. We kept it quiet. Eleanor's life was complicated enough without tabloids dissecting her personal choices, and I didn't want Emma caught up in something she couldn't understand yet. We saw each other when we could, usually at her place or somewhere outside the city. She'd met Emma twice, both times at casual events, where it didn't seem like a big deal. Emma liked her. Eleanor was good with kids in a way that felt natural, not forced. 3 weeks ago, Eleanor asked me to marry her, not with a big production or a ring or anything like that. We were sitting on her balcony, looking out at the city lights, and she just said it. She said she didn't see the point in waiting around when she already knew what she wanted. I didn't answer right away. I needed to think, not because I didn't want to marry her, but because I needed to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons. That I wasn't just saying yes because someone like her wanted someone like me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't about what she could give me. It was about what we gave each other. She made me feel like I was worth something beyond being Emma's dad or Vanessa's ex-husband, and I made her feel like she could just be herself, without the weight of expectations or the pressure of her name. So I said yes. We hadn't told anyone yet. We were planning to make it official soon, Let the people who needed to know find out in a way that didn't turn into a circus. But standing here, with Vanessa's words still hanging in the air and Eleanor's hand on my arm, I realized the secret was about to come out in the worst possible way. Eleanor's fingers rested lightly against my sleeve, and I could feel the eyes of everyone around us locked on her. She didn't seem to notice, or if she did, she didn't care. She was looking at me like I was the only person in the room. Vanessa's face had gone pale. She stood there, frozen, her mouth slightly open like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out what. Her eyes darted between Eleanor and me, trying to piece together what was happening. I could see the exact moment it clicked. The exact moment she realized who Eleanor was and what her presence here meant. One of the men who'd been standing nearby stepped forward, his hand extended toward Eleanor, with an eagerness that bordered on desperation. "Miss Wright," he said, his voice louder than it needed to be. "What an honor. I've been hoping to meet you. My firm has been following your work for years." Eleanor turned to him with a polite smile, the kind that didn't invite further conversation. "That's very kind," she said. Then she turned back to me, dismissing him without another word. The man stood there for a second, his hand still halfway extended, before he awkwardly lowered it and stepped back. I saw Vanessa watching the exchange, her expression shifting from shock to something sharper. Calculation. She was already figuring out her next move. Eleanor leaned closer to me, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay." She squeezed my arm gently. "Good. Because I think we're about to have company." She was right. Vanessa had recovered enough to plaster on a smile, the same one she used to wear at networking events when she was trying to impress someone important. She stepped forward, her posture straight, her chin lifted. "Eleanor Wright," she said, her tone warm and friendly, like they were old friends. "I can't believe you're here. What a surprise." Eleanor looked at her, her expression neutral. "And you are?" The question landed like a slap. I saw Vanessa's smile falter for just a second before she recovered. "Vanessa Carter," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Michael's ex-wife." Eleanor glanced at Vanessa's outstretched hand, but didn't take it. Instead, she looked at me, one eyebrow slightly raised. "Your ex-wife," she repeated, like she was testing the words. "That's right," Vanessa said, lowering her hand slowly. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "We were just catching up, actually. It's been a while since we've seen each other." Eleanor's gaze shifted back to Vanessa, her expression still calm, but with an edge I recognized. "Catching up," she said. "Is that what you call it?" Vanessa's smile tightened. "Of course. We share a daughter, so we stay in touch. It's important to keep things civil, you know, for Emma's sake." The way she said Emma's name made my jaw clench, like she had any right to use our daughter as a shield after what she'd just said to me. Eleanor must have felt the tension in my arm because her grip shifted slightly, steadying me. "Civil," Eleanor said, the word measured. "That's an interesting choice." Vanessa laughed again, more nervous this time. "Well, you know how it is with exes. Sometimes things get a little awkward. But we're adults. We can handle it." Eleanor didn't respond right away. She just looked at Vanessa with the kind of steady, unblinking gaze that made people squirm. I'd seen her use it in meetings, when someone was trying to sell her something she didn't want. It was the look of someone who saw through every layer of bullshit and wasn't interested in playing along. Finally, Eleanor spoke. "I'm sure you can handle a lot of things," she said. Her tone was polite, but there was steel underneath it. "Though I have to admit, I'm a little surprised you'd approach Michael the way you did just now." Vanessa's face flushed. "I don't know what you mean." Eleanor tilted her head slightly. "No?" "That's unfortunate. Because I heard what you said to him. Everyone within 10 feet heard what you said to him. The air around us went cold. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. She glanced around, as if looking for an escape route, but people were watching now, listening, waiting to see what would happen next. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Vanessa said, her voice strained. I didn't mean anything by it. Michael knows that. We joke around sometimes. It's just how we are. I felt Eleanor's hand tighten on my arm just slightly, and I knew she was holding herself back. She didn't call Vanessa a liar. She didn't need to. The look on her face said it all. Well, Eleanor said, her voice light now, almost conversational. I suppose everyone has their own way of communicating, but for the record, I don't think Michael found it particularly funny. Vanessa's eyes darted to me, looking for some kind of lifeline. I didn't give her one. I just stood there, letting Eleanor handle it, because she was doing a better job than I ever could. I should apologize if I overstepped, Vanessa said, her tone shifting to something softer, more conciliatory. I didn't mean to cause any tension, especially not in front of you, Miss Wright. I know how important discretion is in your line of work. It was a calculated move. Vanessa was trying to reframe the situation, to make it seem like she was being considerate of Eleanor's reputation. But Eleanor didn't take the bait. Discretion is important, Eleanor agreed. But so is respect, and I don't think you showed much of that tonight. Vanessa flinched. She tried to recover, to salvage something from the wreckage. I really am sorry, she said, her voice quieter now. I didn't realize you two were together. Michael and I don't really talk about our personal lives anymore. Eleanor's expression didn't change. That's probably for the best, she said. Then she turned to me, her smile returning, warm and genuine. Should we get some air? I think we've been inside long enough. I nodded, grateful for the out. Yeah, let's go. We started to walk away, but Vanessa's voice stopped us. Wait, she said, and there was something desperate in her tone now. Miss Wright, I'd love to talk to you sometime. About business, I mean. I've been working in investment consulting, and I think there might be some opportunities for collaboration. Eleanor stopped. She didn't turn around right away. When she did, her expression was composed, polite, but there was no warmth in it. I appreciate the interest, she said, but I don't think that's going to work out. Vanessa's face fell. Can I ask why not? Eleanor looked at her for a long moment, like she was deciding how honest to be. Because I don't do business with people who treat others the way you treated Michael tonight, she said simply. It tells me everything I need to know about how you'd conduct yourself in a professional setting. The words hung in the air, final and absolute. Vanessa stood there, her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find something to say, some way to undo what had just happened. But there was nothing. Eleanor had made her decision, and everyone in earshot knew it. Eleanor took my arm again, and we walked toward the exit. Behind us, I could hear the murmur of voices starting up again, people already dissecting what they'd just witnessed. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I didn't have to. We made it halfway to the door before Vanessa caught up with us. I heard her heels clicking faster against the marble, that same determined rhythm from earlier, but more urgent now. Eleanor and I kept walking, not rushing, but not slowing down either. I thought maybe Vanessa would give up, realize she'd lost whatever ground she thought she had. But she didn't. Michael, wait, she called out, loud enough that a few heads turned. Please, just give me a minute. Eleanor's grip on my arm didn't loosen, but she slowed her pace slightly, letting me decide. I stopped and turned around. Vanessa stood a few feet away. Slightly out of breath, her composure starting to crack around the edges. Her smile was gone now, replaced by something that looked almost frantic. What do you want, Vanessa? I asked, My voice came out flat, tired. She glanced at Eleanor, then back at me. Can we talk? Just the two of us? It'll only take a minute. Eleanor looked at me, her expression neutral, but with a question in her eyes. I shook my head slightly. Whatever Vanessa wanted to say, she could say it here. I wasn't going to give her the chance to twist things in private, to spin some narrative I'd have to spend the rest of the night unpacking. You can say whatever you need to say right here, I told Vanessa. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. She folded her arms across her chest, a defensive gesture that didn't match the conciliatory tone she was trying for. I know things got a little heated back there, she said. I didn't mean for it to come across the way it did. I was just surprised to see you, and I guess I said some things without thinking. You said I wasn't loved, I said, keeping my voice even. You said it loud enough for everyone to hear. That wasn't you being thoughtless. That was you trying to humiliate me. Vanessa's face flushed. That's not fair. You know how we are. We've always been blunt with each other. Blunt is one thing, I said. What you did was something else. She looked away, her fingers digging into her arms. Fine. Maybe I went too far. But you have to understand, Michael. Seeing you here, in this world, it just brought up a lot of old feelings. You always acted like you were above all of this, like ambition was something to be ashamed of. And now, here you are, with someone who's more successful than I'll ever be, and it's like everything I said to you back then didn't matter. Eleanor shifted beside me, and I could feel her barely contained irritation. But she stayed quiet, letting me handle it. This isn't about you, Vanessa, I said. It never was. You wanted a life I couldn't give you, and I wanted a family you didn't have time for. That's why we got divorced. But that doesn't give you the right to tear me down in public just because you're uncomfortable. Vanessa's eyes flashed. Uncomfortable? You think I'm uncomfortable? Michael, I've spent the last 6 months trying to get a meeting with Eleanor Wright's team. Do you have any idea how hard that is? And now I find out you've been with her this whole time, and you didn't even think to mention it. You could have helped me. There it was, the real reason she'd followed us. Not to apologize, not to make things right. She wanted access. She wanted me to use my relationship with Eleanor to open doors for her. I'm not your networking contact, I said. And even if I were, do you really think I'd help you after what you just did? Vanessa's composure finally shattered. You're unbelievable, she snapped. You act like you're so much better than me, like you're above all of this, but you're not. You're just a guy who got lucky. You found someone who doesn't see what everyone else sees. Eleanor's voice cut through the air like a blade. And what is it you think everyone else sees? She asked. Her tone was calm, almost curious, but there was an edge underneath that made Vanessa take a step back. Vanessa hesitated, realizing too late that she'd crossed a line. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. Eleanor let go of my arm and took a step forward. She wasn't tall, but she had a presence that made Vanessa shrink. Yes, you did, Eleanor said. You meant exactly that. You think Michael's not good enough, not successful enough, not important enough. And you think the only reason someone like me would be with him is because I'm either desperate or blind. Vanessa's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked like she wanted to argue, to defend herself, but there was nothing she could say that wouldn't make things worse. Eleanor continued, her voice steady and unflinching. Let me tell you something about Michael. He's a better person than anyone in this room, including you and me. He's raised a daughter on his own while you've been chasing deals and trying to climb ladders that don't lead anywhere meaningful. He's patient and kind, and he doesn't measure his worth by his bank account or his connections. And if you can't see that, then you're exactly the kind of person I make it a point to avoid. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Vanessa stood there, her face pale, her arms still crossed, like she was trying to hold herself together. Around us, the crowd had thinned, but the few people still nearby were watching with undisguised interest. I could see a woman in a silver dress whispering to her companion, a man with a phone half raised like he was debating whether to record this. Vanessa looked at me, her eyes searching for something. Maybe an ally, maybe a way out. But I didn't give her anything. I just stood there, letting Eleanor's words settle over the conversation like a closing argument. Finally, Vanessa spoke, her voice small and strained. "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "I came here to network, to make connections. I didn't know this would happen." Eleanor's expression softened slightly, but her tone stayed firm. "Then maybe next time, think about how you treat people before you decide they're beneath you. Because those connections you're chasing, they're built on respect, and you just burned that bridge." Vanessa didn't respond. She just nodded once, a stiff, mechanical movement, and turned away. She walked back toward the main room, her shoulders hunched, her earlier confidence completely gone. I watched her disappear into the crowd, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just relief. Like a weight I'd been carrying for years had finally lifted. Eleanor turned back to me, her expression softening. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay." She reached for my hand, lacing her fingers through mine. "Good. Because I meant what I said back there. Every word." I squeezed her hand. "I know." We left the party a few minutes later. The night air was cool and clean after the stuffiness of the penthouse. Eleanor's driver was waiting by the curb, the car idling quietly. She opened the door and gestured for me to get in, but I didn't move right away. I just stood there, looking back at the building, at the glowing windows, and the silhouettes of people still mingling inside. "You thinking about going back?" Eleanor asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. I shook my head. "No. Just thinking about how different tonight could have gone." She smiled. "Different how?" "If you hadn't shown up," I said. "If I'd been there alone, dealing with Vanessa by myself, I probably would have just left. Walked away without saying anything. Let her think whatever she wanted to think." Eleanor tilted her head, studying me. "And now?" "Now I don't feel like I have to do that anymore," I said. "I don't have to shrink myself to make other people comfortable. I don't have to apologize for being who I am." She stepped closer, her hand still in mine. "You never had to do that, Michael. You just didn't know it yet." We got into the car, and the driver pulled away from the curb. The city lights blurred past the windows, streaks of gold and white against the dark sky. Eleanor leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. And for the first time all night, I felt like I could breathe. "We should probably tell Emma," I said after a while. "About us, about the engagement. She deserves to know before anyone else does." Eleanor lifted her head, looking at me. "You sure you're ready for that?" I thought about it. Emma was smart. She'd figure out eventually that something had changed, that Eleanor wasn't just a friend anymore, and I didn't want her to hear it from someone else. Didn't want her to feel like I'd been hiding something important from her. "Yeah," I said. "I'm ready." Eleanor smiled. "Then let's tell her." Together. The car pulled up in front of Eleanor's building a little while later. We rode the elevator up to her apartment, the same place where she'd asked me to marry her 3 weeks ago. The same place where we'd spent hours talking about everything and nothing, building something that felt solid and real. Inside, Eleanor kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch with a sigh. "Remind me never to go to another one of those parties," she said. I sat down next to her, pulling her close. "You didn't have to come tonight," I said. "I know you hate those things." She looked up at me, her eyes serious. "I came because I wanted to, because I knew you'd be there, and I wanted to be there with you, even if it meant dealing with your ex-wife and a room full of people who judge everyone by their stock portfolio. I kissed the top of her head. Thank you. For what? For what you said back there, for standing up for me, for seeing me the way you do. She smiled. That's the easy part, Michael. You make it easy. We sat there for a long time, wrapped up in each other, the noise of the city muted behind the thick windows. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I didn't feel like I had to prove myself to anyone. I just felt like myself. And that was enough. The next morning, I picked Emma up from her friend's house where she'd stayed the night. She climbed into the car with her backpack slung over one shoulder, talking a mile a minute about some video game she'd played. I listened, nodding in the right places, letting her energy fill the car. When we got home, I made us breakfast. Pancakes, her favorite. And while we sat at the kitchen table, syrup dripping onto our plates, I told her about Eleanor, about how we'd been seeing each other, about how much she meant to me, about how I wanted her to be part of our family. Emma looked at me with those wide, serious eyes she'd inherited from me. Are you gonna marry her? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, I am, if that's okay with you. She thought about it for a minute, chewing on a piece of pancake. Then she smiled. I like her, she said simply. She's nice, and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a little kid. I laughed. No, she doesn't. When's the wedding? Emma asked. We haven't figured that out yet, I said. But soon, and you'll be there, front and center. Emma grinned. Can I be in it? Like officially? Absolutely, I said. You're the most important person there. She seemed satisfied with that. We finished breakfast, and she ran off to her room to play. I cleaned up the dishes, thinking about the night before, about Vanessa's words and Eleanor's response, and the way everything had shifted in the span of a few hours. Silence wasn't always weakness. Sometimes it was just knowing when to let the truth speak for itself.